Joining us right now is Sharyl Attkisson, Emmy Award Winning Journalist, host of Full Measure with Sharyl Attkisson. Hello, Sharyl. How are you?
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right. First of all, we'll talk about what's coming up on your show, and I'm really interested to see that show this week because there's a follow-up involving preemies and little babies and mothers who were just hoodwinked into putting their babies' lives at risk. But first, naturally, just following up with what we were talking about with Andy Card, your reaction to what we saw in Vegas, in Nevada last night.
I think it proves something I tweeted out. Again, I'm not a political pundit. I'm just operating from a common sense viewpoint and from people I speak to on all sides of the political spectrum. If enough people vote for somebody, whether it's Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, in this case Trump, then they can win. So all this propaganda that's put out, the spin to try to make people, in my view, think their vote won't count or to encourage them to vote for somebody else, is being proven wrong. And I think in the larger picture, we all talk about Democrats and Republicans being tired of the establishment and the rise of these other candidates. They're also rejecting, I believe, voters are rejecting the news media in some sense. They see us as part of the establishment as well. And it's a message that they're sending as much to the news media as anybody else, that they are not wanting views forced down their throat by people who are supposed to be reporting news. They want to make up their own mind, and they just want us to bring them, in some cases, information.
And you think that benefits, that obviously, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that dissatisfaction with the media and the message they're sending translates to votes for Trump as well?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Now, and there was a poll out not too long ago that showed that more people are upset and distrust the media, upset with and distrust the media, more so than the government.
Well, that's what's kind of funny when you hear the analysts talk about how upset many Democrats and Republicans are with the, quote, establishment, but they don't realize that includes us, that includes we ourselves, that are also perceived as being in that group of establishment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let me ask you this. We had Roger Stone on. I mean, you used to work at CBS, so I'll just ask you if this would surprise you if it does come to fruition. Roger Stone said the other day on this show that CBS is planning to, in his words, smear Donald Trump with allegations of ties to the mafia. Would you be surprised if that's in the pipeline at CBS, and or if there are similar type stories waiting to come out at other networks as well?
Well, CBS is not a monolithic organization. It would not surprise me that there would be people inside each network who have motivations and goals that are not journalistically based, and we saw that happen, I think, in many other presidential elections that occurred during my time at CBS, and probably even before that, where you may have certain players who have an agenda and are willing to suspend their journalistic ethics to advance it. On the other hand, there are many very ethical people there. It just depends on who's calling the shots on a particular story. There could be a very well-done story. So in advance, I wouldn't conclude that it's a smear rather than a, journalistic story. But election year, anything can happen.
All right, so let me ask you, because you're also on your show, Full Measure with Sharyl Attkisson, this weekend are going to discuss who's funding the candidates and how they're doing in their fundraising. So let's talk about where the Republicans, and if you got news on Hillary and Bernie too, please bring it up. But what's the takeaway for the most part on that story?
Well, I'm still putting that together, and Scott Thuman is going to be reporting that out for us. But what we're going to do is take each candidate, look at their total, and run through their top donors or their top interests, whether it's Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, or one of the other Republicans. As you know, Bernie Sanders, he does have super PACs supporting him, contrary to popular opinion. They just don't amount to much. Unlike Hillary Clinton's super PACs, which I think has given her something like $50 million so far, Donald Trump has super PACs supporting him. But again, most of his money comes from his campaign itself, not from these outside groups. And we're going to run all that down.
All right. Now, last year, you did a story on this government program, government-funded experiment, where over 1,300 extremely premature babies, infants, were entered into it, the parents were misled into them thinking that this is going to help their little baby, and in many cases the babies died or have grown up and are now sick. You got a follow-up to that report coming up on Sunday. Fill us in.
Yes, this is a story that's never been, to my knowledge, on national television, and I'm not sure why it's not making bigger headlines. Let me start out by saying the federal researchers and all the research groups that took part, including institutions at Duke and Yale, claimed that this was all ethical, nobody was hurt, and so on. So let's get that off the top. But the government's own ethics body agreed with some of the parents who say the consent was not proper. They were not properly told of the risks, namely that their children could die. These extremely premature, sick infants could die as a result of the study if they were entered into it. And there are a host of problems, including the babies were put on oxygen monitors as part of the protocol for the study. They were intentionally disabled to give false readings. Again, the researchers say no harm resulted, but the government's own ethicists question that. And you know, in typical government fashion, I hate to say it, but instead of apologizing or correcting, the government went after the ethics body, its own ethics body that made these findings, and has tried to attack and marginalize the watchdogs in this case.
Wow. All right, well, we look forward to that. It's a very important story. It's a chilling story. And Sharyl, always great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, folks, and Sharyl Attkisson. And we'll take your calls next, 877-NEWSMAX, 877-639-7629. Remember to join me tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Eastern, for Newsmax TV's special coverage of the Republican debate out of Houston, Texas. That's 11 p.m. Eastern, only on Newsmax TV. Don't miss it.